As-salamu alaykum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope everybody is doing good. So the reason I made this video today is just to go over this web app and startup I'm working on called MyRizq. So MyRizq is ultimately your go-to and guide for halal investing. If you ever wondered whether a stock is Sharia compliant, whether you struggle to understand the halal ETF landscape to determine which ETFs I should be investing in, whether if you want to understand if you want to be able to build your portfolio. I think these are all the questions that come up so often as Muslims, as we struggle to navigate finances here in the West. So I built this, I'm working on building this startup to ultimately provide a comprehensive platform designed to help Muslims navigate finance with confidence. It's all about making Sharia compliant investing simple and accessible. So the platform provides instant Sharia compliant checks for stocks, explores how ETFs, and builds custom platforms and builds custom portfolios. So to get into the features, you can see here we have our Halal ETF Explorer, where you can kind of see a full breakdown of all of the Halal ETFs in the marketplace. And if I am missing any, please do let me know, as we want this to be very comprehensive and a great tool for Muslims as they, navigate their personal finances. So you can see here, you can, if you're interested in halal ETFs that are US equity focused, you can find that here. So there's SPUS, halal, and if you click into it, you can kind of get a breakdown of what this ETF is all about. So if you're curious about SPUS, what this ETF is, who certifies it to make it halal ETF, you can find all this information here in terms of its returns. You can see its 1 month return to its return since inception, and you can see that it is doing well. And then if you're curious about its main holdings, you can kind of get that information here as well. So you can see Nvidia as its main holding was at close to 14%, Apple, Microsoft, Google. And then you can get an idea of the sectors in which they operate in. So you can see SPUS is technology focused, with majority of these companies looking like they are based in the US. So you get that full understanding of the ETF as you're curious about if this ETF is right for you. And you can see its assets under management, and you can see its expense ratio, which has gone down since its inception from 0.5 to 0.45, which is a really good sign to see. And if you're curious about global equity ETFs, you can see there's a full range, and alhamdulillah, it's good to see that the sort of the halal ETF in the Islamic finance space in the West has grown immensely over these past 10 years. You can see there's emerging market ETFs. You can see there's ETFs that are mainly focused on technology. And if you want to get that full picture and you want to click into it, you can see all of that here. And I highly recommend this I highly recommend halal ETFs for beginners, because it is the perfect tool to get started in investing, versus stock picking. However, if you are curious about investing in stocks in particular, then we also have the the stock screener, so you can determine if a stock is Sharia compliant. And we also have added another layer of complexity to determine, does this company also pass the ethical screening? Is it specifically, does it pass the BDS compliance? So if you want to look into Microsoft, unfortunately, you also would have to make sure that you are you have to do, like, this does take time to build, and it's been a great effort for us. So we do make sure that there is a fee involved, and you can just start it out with a 7-day free trial to see if this is right for you. But to continue on for this tutorial, I'm going to log in. For example, if you're curious more about like determining if a stock is Sharia compliant, you can see here, for example, sorry, let me get that refreshed. So if you want to see, for example, Microsoft, it's questionable, and the reason why it's questionable is because it does. You can see here that we have the qualitative screening, and in the qualitative screening, we use the company's 10K, which is annual financial reports that our companies have a fiduciary duty to report to shareholders at the end of the year. They also do it quarterly, but the 10K is a real detailed report where you can kind of get a full understanding of the company and their revenue segments. So we look through the revenue segments to determine if it's halal, questionable, not halal, and And we also do the quantitative screening where AOFI, which is like the governing Sharia board, which has determined a list of parameters in terms of figuring out if a company is Sharia compliant or not. And there are three sort of criteria that need to be passed for a company to be, I guess, for it to be Sharia compliant, which is the qualitative screen, which we've gone over. So organizations are only to be considered compliant for the qualitative screening if the cumulative revenue for non-compliant activities and non-operating interest income does not exceed 5% of the total income. So if that passes and the quantitative screening passes, which is the interest bearing debt ratio must be under 30%. The interest bearing securities ratio must be under 30%, and the liquidity ratio must be under 30%. Then it would be considered share compliant. But there's also that added layer where we want to make sure that these companies that we're mentioning are share compliant also pass the BDS list. So we make sure that the companies, aren't supporting or aren't complicit with Israeli occupation in Gaza, and may Allah help our brothers in Gaza. So you can see here, Microsoft is clearly one of those companies that's complicit with, the occupation in Palestine currently. So we've added this extra layer, and I think this is a great tool if you're interested in more of that, stock picking, and you want to see at a rather than investing in an ETF, you want to find certain stocks. And I do think it's a great tool just to gather more information. Like if you're curious about, for example, Nvidia, which is has made so much noise over the past few years, you can get an idea of their company profile, their qualitative screening. So if you look at their qualitative screening, you can see that the segmented revenue, they have two sort of sources of revenue, which is compute and networking revenue, and then graphics. And if you want more information, the SEC filing is all here for you to kind of take a look and see, okay, I want more information, I want to dig further. And rather than having to go all over the place, you can find all of that information here. And that's typically that's been our aim, right? We want to build a comprehensive resource for Muslims to kind of navigate their finances 24/7, talk to other Muslims, build a community as they go through this journey of halal investing. And we built this tool to sort of provide that for us. And the best thing I really like is to also see your portfolio as a whole. So you can kind of get that quick snapshot and track your portfolio. So I've gone through and added in things that consist of my portfolio currently. And I've added in what my portfolio looks like. And I've never really, because I have a few different I have a few different brokerages that I use to manage my investments, and I kind of never have that full picture. And I've kind of played around with it currently to kind of see what it would look like in my full picture. And I can see that I am ETF dominant, and this is kind of what I want to do. And I want to be able to track this, and I want to be able to see my change over time. And then again, if you're going back to the halal ETFs as well, if you want to sort of compare and contrast two different ETFs together, you can kind of see, for example, SPUS and Halal. If you're debating on which one you want to invest in head to head, you can kind of see that comparison. And you can see that SPUS, they the majority of their holdings are very consistent, like 55.5% of their of their holdings overlap. You can see they both have Apple, Google, Nvidia. It's very tech focused and heavy. And you can kind of see, hey, like SPUS has a lower expense ratio, it has higher assets under management. Maybe it makes more sense to invest in SPUS for myself currently, right? And if you want to sort of compare, the fixed income so Sukuk made by iShares and SPTE, you can kind of get that comparison as well. And again, I think if you're sort of you want to track your portfolio, you want to find halal companies that are Sharia compliant, you want to determine and manage see which halal ETFs are on the marketplace. All of that is in this all-in-one tool. And I think as Muslims, I think it's a great tool for us to kind of learn and improve. And inshallah, if you do have questions or find ways to improve it, do let me know, and I will work on adding those features where we do have a feedback page as well. And again, if you're also interested in just learning about halal investing, I'm going to be making more and more videos about halal investing, personal finance as a whole. So do let me know if this is interest to you. Make an account, share it with your friends, inshallah. I think this is I've worked hard in terms of the past few years building this out. So I'm happy to share it with everyone now, and inshallah, if you do find benefit from it, do let me know. And try your best to use it. And if you find it of interest, again, share it with your friends, inshallah. JazakAllah khairan for your time. Inshallah, I'll be making more videos about each of these ETFs individually, so you can get a better understanding. But again, do take your time to use it, and you'll also benefit from it too, inshallah. So JazakAllah khairan for your time. Thank you.